Hi, good afternoon. It's Sandy, your work at home grandma, and I'm here today welcoming you to another installment of the Rubies series. Rubies Escaping the Curse is a 4-book series on Amazon, and each week on my blog I do a book excerpt. And when we left the book last week, Kaja, who is the heroine in the book, had just lost her husband. He had passed away, and she was left penniless. To give you a little background for those of you that may have not, tuned into the entire story thus far, Kaja was married in Norway and she had 2 children. Her husband was a musician who actually cheated on her, and she had married him against her father's wishes. And she had actually been cursed by her father on his deathbed for her sin. But she left her children in Norway after the divorce with her mother and came to America to make a new life. And then she was planning on sending for them. It didn't work out so well for her when she was raped by her employer and forced to marry him. Hans Berglund had 2 children, a daughter and a son, Sophia and William. Sophia hated the housekeeper and was very angry that the father married her, and she was very bitter. And because of this, Hans actually sent her away to live with her uncle Christian in Morton. And it was against Kaja's wishes, but it was what he wanted to do. She became pregnant after he raped her, and she had a little girl. And the child, at 18 months old, was severely burned by hot grease and almost dies. At that time, Hans refuses to let Kaja take the child to the hospital because in those days it wasn't money that was spent. And so the child gets terribly scarred and she loses most of her permanent teeth. Then there is a son born shortly after that, and he dies shortly after birth of pneumonia. And it is at that time that Kaja receives hope from Hans that he'll help her get back to Norway to her children, because her mother, who she left the children with, has now died, and the children have been placed in an orphanage. Well, time goes by, and when her daughter is 4 years old, she finds her father dead on the sofa due to heart failure. And so this dashes all the hope Kaja has of ever returning to Norway for her 2 daughters. It is further exacerbated when she finds out that Hans has left all his money to his 2 children, Sophia and William, and she is left penniless with her daughter. Then she goes to live in the small town of Morton where Christian lives, and soon he falls in love with her. It is then when she decides that it's better to marry for a reason and not to marry for love. And she actually marries Christian in the hope of returning to Norway for her 2 daughters. Her daughter Mary, the oldest daughter, has been severely angry with her mother and was very angry that she left her in Norway. The younger daughter, Jana, was so small when Kaja left that she doesn't remember her mother. The daughters have been placed in an orphanage, and Mary hasn't written to her mother in a couple years. Then one day, Kaja gets a letter from Mary. She's overjoyed. She thinks finally Mary has forgiven her. But when she opens the letter, she's devastated. Another tragedy has occurred. I don't know how many of you have ever lost a child, but it is like losing a piece of your heart and a piece of your soul. And now, this has happened to Kaja for the 2nd time. So I hope you'll tune into the excerpt, read it thoroughly, and do continue to tune in on the series. Because next week we go into Marty's life, and we find out that Marty is repeating all of the same mistakes Kaja made twofold. So do tune in. Thanks for reading my blog, and have a wonderful day.